Shalom, Apostle Tahar coming back at you with this truth, giving all praise to Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai Bashim, Rakah Kwadash. And I'm going to entitle this one, The Importance of Root Words in the Scriptures. Another word for root words is etymology, the study of the root of a word, loosely translated. Anyway, a previous video I dealt with Obadiah 1 verse 18, and I'll read it, and then I'll go into, I'll pull out a particular Hebrew word in this verse. Anyway, it says Obadiah 1 verse 18, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire. And now when you look up the word fire, the word there is ash. And the house of Joseph a flame. So why didn't it say Jacob shall be a fire and Joseph shall also be a fire? See, now when you go into the Hebrew word for fire, the word there is ash, which actually literally means fire. And the house of Joseph, which represent the tribe of Ephraim and the other tribes that were with Ephraim when they came to the other side of the world. A flame in the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them. The them are the Edomites or Esau, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh have spoken it. So ultimately, and Esau is still walking around. He's in power. He's the man in power. These Edomites. Although these Edomites are trying to deny the fact that they are Edomites, they're Edomites. It says in Second Ezra's, it speaks about Jacob and Esau. It speaks about how Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And that's another reason why they don't want to deal with the Apocrypha, because you can't get around that. Because if Esau was already destroyed, then Jacob is in power. So we're in the kingdom already. It's impossible. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up. Anyway, let me get into this word right here for flame. It says, in the house of Joseph, a flame. That's talking about when all the tribes come together, they're going to do away with Esau, the Edomites. Now let me look up the word. I'm going to click on the word flame, which is H3852. Now the word there is lahaba. Okay, the definition is flame, tip of weapon, point, head of spear. And I'm going to show you that they're going to use this word in the Psalms, Psalms 83, to, well, you know what? When I get to it, I'll explain it. It says flame, which is supposed to be a fire, right? Tip of weapon, point, head of spear. Now, the head of a spear in the modern world would be the nuclear warhead. It tells you in Revelation, matter of fact, let me go to that. So you can read these scriptures and you can read these scriptures over and over again, and then you can come across the same scriptures that you've been reading and go deeper into the scriptures if you go into them words. It's not, hey, you go to the blue letter. The blue letter makes it easy for you, right? Like I said before, and I still say that the blue letter goes off at certain times. So you gotta see. We knew the Hebrew before we got into the blue letter, so we know when the blue letter goes off. Anyway, it says in Revelation 9, Revelation 9, okay, Revelation 9, verse 16, and the number of the army of the horsemen, and this goes hand in hand with Joel 2, were 200,000, 200 million, and I heard the number of them. So he saw those missiles destroying Babylon the Great, and he heard an angel say, gave the number out, 200 million. 17, and thus I saw the horses represent the missiles in the vision, and them that sat on them having plates of fire and of jacinth and of brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions. So we know that this is not talking about some strange looking animal. It's actually talking about the missiles. And out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. So when you go back to the word flame, lahaba, that's talking about the tip of a spear. So the tip of a modern spear would be your ICBM missiles, intercontinental ballistic missile, which you have a delivery system, which is the rocket itself, the body itself, and the thing that does the destruction is the multiple warheads. It goes on to say, by these three was the third part of man killed, Esau's system, by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths, which are the nuclear warheads, which you have multiple nuclear warheads. It says, for their power is in their mouth and in their tails, because the tail is the delivery system of the ICBM. It delivers the multiple warheads, nuclear warheads, from one continent to the other. That's why it's labeled the acronym ICBM, Intercontinental Ballistic Missiles. For their tails were like unto serpents, and that's what they look like a flying serpent. And that's also in 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter. It says flying swords. If you go to Isaiah, the 14th chapter, is what I meant to say, it says the same thing. Seraphims, which are flying fiery serpents. And what Isaiah saw with these missiles, and had heads, that's the multiple warhead. And with them, the heads, they do hurt. So now let's go back to this root word, lahaba, which is flame, tip of weapon, point, head of spear. Now it says flame, and it mentions Joel 2 verse 5, Job 41 verse 13, flaming, i.e. glittering spear, in brightness resembling a flame. And that's what the missiles are going to look like. Like you see these ancient movies, and a guy has a spear, and the tip of the spear, or he has a spear, it's like a long wooden shaft, a metal shaft, and the tip of it, that's the thing that kills the other person, kills the enemy, the opponent. It says, the point of a spear or sword. So what is the point of a spear or a sword in the today, the ICBM missile. Now, when you go to the scriptures that deal with this word, H 3852, sometimes it'll say flame, and sometimes it'll say, like for example, 1 Samuel 17, verse 7, and the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam. It's talking about Goliath. And his spear's head, and that's spear's head in the Hebrew is H 3852, which is the same word for flame in Obadiah 1 verse 18. So the spear's head is the same thing as the nuclear multiple warheads. Okay, then it goes on to give the weight. So that word is interchangeable with the word spear or spearhead and flame. Okay, as you read on, all right, Psalms 83 verse 14. Now, when you go to the top, I'm not going to read the whole chapter. I'm just going to kind of skim through it. It says, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult. And this is the second verse. And they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, the Israelites, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in their remembrance. Because there's no one that, comes to the UN. Out of all those different world nations, they have their General Assembly in September, and not one of them in years have said that the real Israelites are in America. They're the so-called Negroes, West Indian, Puerto Ricans, Haitian, Dominicans, the people of Indian and Negroid descent. Those are the real Israelites in the Americas and scattered around the world. There has not been one representative for any country that pulled out the 12 tribe sign. All right? There's no seat for the so-called Negroes. Is there a seat for Gad? I don't know. The American Indians. So all these people work together, just like the psalmist said. This ain't nothing but a WWE. And this is a psalm of Asaph. Then it mentions the nations, and the first nation is Edom. Why is Edom mentioned first? Because he's the one in power. The tabernacle of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab. Hey, look, Jake gets shot dead by the cops. When was the last time you heard an Arab getting shot dead by the cops? They really don't have no hate for the Arabs, the Ishmaelites, man. They're not getting shot dead. It's Israelite men and women getting shot dead. If you go to Manhattan, a lot of these businesses are owned by Ishmaelites. A lot of them have their push carts, and they make good money on them push carts, man. They make thousands of dollars a day off of them little push carts, man. And those are Ishmaelites and them other Middle Eastern nations, man. Ain't no police giving them guys a hard time, man. So they're really working together. So it says the tabernacle of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gebal and Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines. They all work together, man. That's why they all have a seat in the UN. Now, when you read all these nations and you come down to the end, The 12th verse it says, who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of the Most High in possession. Ain't nobody talking about, wait a minute, the people that belong in the land of Israel are these Israelites. Not one of them is saying that. Oh, my power, make them like a wheel as the stubble before the wind. Meaning utterly destroy them, beat them into powder. Now, 14th verse. As the fire burneth wood, and as the flame, now like I said, the word flame means, when you go back to Obadiah 1 verse 18, it says Joseph a flame. It's talking about a fire, but it's actually talking about the tip of a spear, the head of a spear, which when you're fighting in the sun reflects off of the spear. It looks like a fire, flame of fire. So the modern day tip of a spear would be the nuclear warheads from the ICBM missiles. 14 verse again. As the fire burneth a wood, and what's going to happen to the descendants of Esau? They're going to be burnt up as wood. It said in the 13th verse, as the stubble before the wind. 14th verse again, as the fire burneth a wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. So what does the word mountain mean? When you go to Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, and the 2nd verse, it speaks about the Most High establishing Israel as the top of the mountain. So the term mountain, in pursuant to how you read it, pursuant to the context, is talking about nations. Like right here, it's talking about nations. These nations are going to be set on fire, but they're going to get built back up. But the only nation that's going to be set on fire and not built back up is Babylon the Great, pursuant to Isaiah the 13th chapter. Now I want to go to Jeremiah 51 verse 25. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain. Now we just got the understanding that a mountain represents a government. Whose government, what government is on top? Esau's government, even though they're not calling themselves Esau. When you go 2,000 years ago to the Roman Empire, the pagan Roman Empire, who was ruling? Edomites were ruling. But were they calling themselves Edomites? No. But the so-called king that was set up over Israel, or the kingdom of Judah at that time, was what? An actual Edomite, man. That went around saying that they were Jews. I'm talking about the Herodian dynasty, which I have said from the beginning before. When Trump became president, I said this guy, he's either one of them Caesars, or he could be Herod himself, or Herod the Great. It says, because if you notice, his whole family, his children, his sons, and his daughters, they have positions in the Trump administration. And the same thing happened when the Herodians were in power. You should read about Drusilla, which I believe Drusilla is what's her name? Ivanka Trump, the daughter of DJ Trump. And then you got his two sons, and they got kids. And then the son-in-law, he's a so-called Jew. And he made a speech over there in Israel dealing with the U.S. Embassy being set up over there in Jerusalem, making Jerusalem the capital city of the land of Israel. So only time will tell if these are, like I said, if this guy DJ Trump is not one of the Caesars, he has to be Herod the Great. Anyway, it goes on to say the 25th verse, Jeremiah 51 verse 25, 25th verse, behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain. This is the destroying mountain because what did they do? What have they been doing? They destroyed this place. They made this place into a wilderness. What does Revelation 11 verse 18 say? Saith Yahweh, which destroyeth all the earth, and I will stretch out my hand upon thee and roll thee down from the rocks, and the rocks represent what? A high place. It speaks about the pride of Esau in the book of Obadiah. And will make thee a burnt mountain. And how is he going to make this a burnt mountain? With the flame. With the tip of the spear. Now I have a lineup of scriptures. I'm not even going to read them. I'm just going to read off the scriptures. And I may come back and go through these scriptures. But here's the lineup, right? And I entitled this, I wrote this down on a piece of paper months ago. What I do is I have a lot of, I have pieces of paper with topics on it and scriptures on it, and I'll do that so I can read it out on the street. But I never get a chance to because the Spirit kicks in. I might hit a precept, and then somebody else might hit a precept, and then another precept. Then we might be talking about one subject, but then it switches up into another subject because that's the Spirit working. So I have a bunch of pieces of paper with scriptures on it, but this here has about, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 11, 12 scriptures on it, right? And I'm just going to read through these scriptures. And like I said, you can make a response to this video and build on these scriptures, or I may come back and read these scriptures and go into these scriptures. But anyway, the topic is arrows. When I say arrows, I'm talking about the modern day arrows, which are the ICBM missiles. Anyway, I'm going to read these scriptures off. The first scripture I put in was Isaiah the 13th chapter, which I always try to bring that out, because that basically speaks about the destruction of Babylon the Great. And the scripture that I didn't put down was Revelation the 18th chapter, which that whole chapter is talking about the destruction of this place. And John the Revelator, as they call him, the scholars call him, biblical scholars, they call him John the Revelator. He saw this place going down, being destroyed. It's next scripture is Isaiah 34, verse 1, and you can read that whole chapter. Deuteronomy 32, verse 42, Psalms 7, verse 13, Psalms 18, verse 14, Psalm 58, verse 7, but you can start from the first verse and read the whole chapter. Psalms 144, verse 6, Psalm 5, verse 28, and you can read up a couple of verses from that. You can even read the whole chapter. Jeremiah 50. Actually, you can read that whole Jeremiah 50 from the first verse, the whole chapter. Jeremiah 51, the first verse, read the whole chapter. Ezekiel 39. That one you can also read the whole chapter. And Habakkuk 3. Let me go to that real quick. Habakkuk 3, let me see what that says. Okay, Habakkuk 3 verse 11 says, the sun and the moon stood still in their habitation at the light of thy arrows they went, and at the shining of thy glittering spear. Yeah, this is a prayer of Habakkuk, which I might go through this in the near future. But anyway, the scripture was Habakkuk 3 verse 11. So with that, I'm going to say Shalom, and like I said, I may come back and go through some of these scriptures one by one. And in every one of these scriptures, or almost every one of these scriptures, the word arrow or arrows are written in these scriptures. Let me go to one more. Psalms 58 and 7. Let me see what that says. Yep, arrows. And I believe every one of these scriptures, you'll come across the word arrow or arrows. It says Psalms 58, and this is a scripture this is a chapter that you can read the whole chapter. It's only 11 verses long. But this is 11 verse. I'll start the 6th verse. Break their teeth. Now a dog, right? When a dog comes at you, the thing that you're afraid of are the teeth of a dog. If the dog has no teeth, I don't care if it's a Rottweiler or a Pit Bull, German Shepherd. If that dog has no teeth, you can handle that dog. Because the dog can't do too much damage with their with their claws, but their power is in their bite, which Esau is a dog, pursuant to Psalms 22. Because Yahweh Shai, when he was, well, this was a psalm that David was talking about how our Lord was going to be on the cross, and the power, the nation that was in power were the Romans, and he called them dogs. It said, break their teeth, O Most High, in their mouth. Break out the great teeth of the young lions. And the same thing with a lion. Now, a lion can claw you, but a lion's real power is in their teeth. If you're armored good enough, if you have enough protection on you, you can deal with them claws to a certain level. But once a lion bites you, that's it. So the Most High also referred to these devils as lions because they have power to destroy you. O Yahweh, 7th verse. Let them melt. Now, when you look up that word melt, let me bring it out. The word is ma'as. Bear with me for a minute. Let me bring this back. The word is to reject, despise, refuse, to reject, refuse to despise, to be rejected, to flow, run. So ultimately, they're going to be rejected and they're going to be destroyed. It said, let them melt away as waters which run continually when he bendeth his bow to shoot his arrows, which are his missiles, his that are in his silos. Let them be as cut in pieces. So something the Most High is going to do when they go to shoot, when the U.S. goes to shoot their missiles, something's going to happen where they're not going to reach their targets. Let me read that again, 7th verse. Psalm 58, verse 7. Let them melt away as waters with which run continually when he, Esau, his military, bendeth his bow. His bow are the silos. To shoot his arrows. Arrows are what? The missiles. Modern day missiles, which are the ICBM missiles. Let them be as cut in pieces. So something's going to happen where they go to shoot their missiles. There's going to be some major malfunctions with their missiles. It says in the 8th verse, as a snail which melteth. Now let me look up that word, melteth. The word is thamas, which is dissolving, melting, melt away. And what's going to make them melt away? The actual when these missiles hit ground zero, a lot of people are going to be destroyed by the initial hit of that missile when it hits ground zero. But then it's going to cause radiation to melt things. It's going to come as a destroying wind, as the scriptures speak about. Like it was said to the angels, hold back the winds in Revelation the 7th chapter. Well, those winds represent when those missiles hit, it's going to be a destroying wind and radiation that's going to melt people away. And I'm going to say this before I close. You know, any of you guys that are falling off and getting weak, that means you never had the faith. You never believed. See, I believed this from day one. Strongly believed this but day one when I came to this truth that this man going to go down. He's Esau. Babylon is America. The arrows are the missiles. And I still believe it, man. Everything's coming together. Now, we may go to 2019. I'll be surprised if we go to 2020. Can we go to 2020? Of course, it's possible because the Most High only knows the time. In other words, he put it in himself when he's going to take this man out. So the spirit that you're supposed to be in is being on fire, not being lukewarm, not doubting. You know, you're supposed to fight. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom. And like I said, you know, I ran off those scriptures to you. And, you know, it's up to y'all to maybe come back and do responses on that. Or I may even come back and hit these scriptures again. But like I said, what I do is every once in a while, I'll put some precepts together. I might use a keyword or a certain phrase or something in my mind dealing with a particular subject and just make a subject out of it. So, because there's times where you might want to go out there and speak and you might not have nothing to speak on. Normally the spirit jumps on us. So you can't think of anything to really speak on. So, what you do is you put notes together and you open them, take them notes out and read those notes. And then when you read those notes, if you have 10 scriptures lined up, I guarantee you there's going to be more precepts that's going to come to you. And the other men that are beside you, more precepts is going to come from them. So those 10 precepts can turn into 30 precepts. And, that's why a lot of these guys get weak and they do other things besides going out on the highways and the byways or doing these sit-downs. And what people are noticing is when they come to Great Millstone, they know when they come to Great Millstone, they're going to get a lesson dealing with the scriptures, with the Most High's word. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom.